Coming up on this week's edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
What can we look forward to in cattle markets as we head toward the end of the year? We've got expert analysis from CattleFax. Plus, we'll take a look at the latest U.S. beef export numbers and the key factors driving global beef demand.
And now, NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
Hello and welcome to Cattlemen to Cattlemen. I'm Kevin Ochsner. The end of 2024 is quickly approaching. So what can we expect from the cattle markets for the rest of the year? Joining us now to talk about that very issue and give us more insight into the fall outlook is Troy Appelhans with CattleFax. Troy, weaning time is approaching for so many people across this country. What are your thoughts about this feeder calf market as we move into the fall?
The feeder cattle and calf markets have performed very well the past couple of years. As you know, Kevin, we're enjoying the cycle highs that we're going into here. And of course, we're another year deeper into that cycle overall. Sure. But we continue to forecast a slower and more methodical restocking rate and/or expansion. Not seeing any signs of that at this particular time for sure. Mm-hmm. The calf market going into the fall is expected to still remain strong at record high prices, as we know. Mm. But during the month of August, late in August, there was the first time that we've seen the CattleFax U.S. average 550-pound steer price drop below $3. Now it was just barely. But we're still vulnerable during this time frame as we go into the calf run. We had a high price of $328 in the springtime frame for those 550-pound steers. Mm-hmm. The seasonal would imply that there's typically about a 14% break into the fall time period. That would imply that the market has pretty decent support in the upper 280s as we go into the fall, and quite frankly, I'm not sure we have to get that deep. At the same time, when we tend to see heifers kept back, as if we're going to, in fact, retain some heifers, which we are expecting there would be a degree of that going into the fall time period, but you would tend to see that steer heifer price narrow, and we haven't seen that up to this point. The heifer calves at the same weight, to the steer mates still run about 11, 12, 13% below the steer calf prices.
I'm curious, another big source of income for cow-calf operators obviously is cull cows and cull bulls. And gosh, that's been a strong market through the summer. What are your thoughts as we start preg checking these cows about what that cull cow price is going to be throughout the fall?
That's been a really big, strong market this year, Kevin. That's been a little bit of a savior, fortunately, for some of the people that have obviously had to liquidate their herds due to the ongoing drought that we've had, particularly in certain areas of the country. Mm-hmm. You know, 50% of beef consumption's in the form of ground beef. And our non-fed slaughter is down about 900,000 head this year. Well, obviously we would pick some of that up in order to fulfill the demand through exports. But that being said, we still have had a very strong cull cow market. The market would imply that from your spring highs to your fall lows, when we get deeper into the culling process here into the fall, that there's typically about a 19% break to those prices. That's still implying that these cull cow prices in the mid-teens would be very solid support as we go through the fall. And you know, I think with feed prices, obviously we were able to put some pretty economical gain back on these females. Sure. And so if we can retain ownership on them for 90 to 100 days as we get into next year, those prices obviously get a little bit better than they do during the lows in the fall time period.
Let's turn our attention to the fed cattle market. Obviously, we saw some record high retail beef prices this summer. We've talked about this fourth quarter supply going down, but it seems like even as numbers shrink, pounds grow. What should we expect about fed cattle as we go into the fourth quarter?
Cattle feeders have had a really good run here over the past 2 to 3 years where they've been very profitable. There's obviously been time frames of the year, such as the flush that we had in the market last fall. We obviously had the bird flu scare that flushed the market this past spring. And obviously during the month of August, we went through a pretty good flush in the market as well. These break-evens will increase going forward, as we know. They're getting to a spot in here where profit is going to be a little bit harder to come by. But we still do anticipate, as you normally would see in a seasonal market, where you get this holiday demand as you go into the fall time period, particularly for the rib. Sure. And we would still anticipate that these fed cattle prices will increase in value as we go into the fall. unlike what we went through last year, we're still anticipating a pretty decent market where we can get pretty close to break evens on these cattle as we go through the balance of the year.
Okay. You mentioned feed earlier, and looks like we're going to have a big corn crop. What are your projections relative to feed prices, both in terms of corn and in terms of hay stocks?
Hay stocks have been replenished to a large degree here over the past couple of years. We've had some pretty good moisture in some of these areas the past couple of summers where we've actually replenished the hay stocks that got so low. Obviously, with a reduced cow herd, we're utilizing less of those hay stocks as well. And so they've cheapened up, and that's been a big benefit to a lot of the producers that are in a drought area once again. The grain sector of the market's been difficult for the farming community, no doubt about that. What we went through last year in terms of the overall corn crop, it was the largest crop in history, about a 15.3 billion bushel crop. What the estimates are for this new crop here in 2024 is it will be the third largest crop in history. The market feels pretty comfortable about the supply right now. It's not to say that, at times commodity prices can go below the cost of production, and certainly corn prices have been there for an extended period of time, much longer time period than we maybe would have anticipated. We've got the estimates by USDA are about a 14% stocks to use. The market is implying that there's a larger stocks to use than that at this particular time.
Wow.
I think for the most part, we would assume that corn prices have more upside potential from these levels than downside. I think it would be very important for producers to kind of get some of these feed prices locked in for an extended period of time, particularly in light of the fact that the weather forecasts don't look all that great here over the next year.
Forward. Your insight is always really helpful. Thank you for coming to the show, Troy.
Appreciate your time. Thank you.
For more than 5 decades, CattleFax has been providing producers with the tools they need to make profitable decisions. If you're looking for top-notch beef industry research, information, and analysis, then visit the website CattleFax.com. Meanwhile, despite some headwinds, U.S. beef exports are holding steady. Here's a closer look at the latest numbers.
For the first 7 months of 2024, the volume of U.S. beef exports is down 2% from a year ago, but the value of those exports is up 6% from a year earlier at more than $6.1 billion. And the value of U.S. beef exports this year stands at over $418 per head slaughtered. Top foreign markets for U.S. beef are Korea, Japan, and Hong Kong, China. One issue keeping the industry from seeing higher export numbers is the smaller U.S. cattle herd.
We all know production's down at the moment and will continue to be for the next couple of years. So this is the largest headwind, and it's something that we've been talking about with the global consumers, our customers around the world, for virtually 2 years now.
U.S. beef is widely recognized for its high quality, safety, and consistency. Dan Hallstrom says this strong reputation builds trust with international consumers.
To me, that's the testament to the fact that the global consumer, including the U.S., but also the global consumer, not only demands quality and value, but they're paying for it. And while our exports to date are down slightly, our value is up. So in a market with decreased supplies, higher cutout, did the global consumer stop purchasing U.S. beef? No, not at all. In fact, certain regions, they're increasing their sales of U.S. beef. So I think we're in a very good spot in terms of reputation, quality, and performance of U.S. beef.
Still ahead on Cattlemen to Cattlemen, we'll tell you how NCBA and the Beef Checkoff study consumer trends to make sure beef is the protein of choice year-round.
Drought. It's been growing from June compared to August. We're seeing that La Nina drought footprint starting to grow. What is the status of this La Nina event and what lays ahead for us? That's in this week's Weather Watch.
By installing Ritchie waterers, you save water while keeping it fresh and always available to your animals. You protect the land by keeping natural water clean and soil healthy. And you conserve power because they're energy efficient. We're committed to helping you create a prosperous, sustainable, and regenerative future because we know, like you know, that every saved drop matters. Ritchie, fresh water for life.
CattleCon's headed to San Antonio, February 4th through 6th, 2025, where farmers and ranchers gather to shape our industry's future. Remember, if you ain't at the table, you might just be on the menu. Check out the latest in ranching at the Texas-sized NCBA trade show. Network, learn, and grow your operation. Don't miss this chance to steer the cattle biz in San Antonio, where the Alamo spirit lives on. Visit convention.ncba.org to get registered. CattleCon 2025, where the beef industry meets.
For many years, the National Cattlemen's Beef Association, with funding from the Beef Checkoff, has conducted market research to better understand consumers and their views about beef. Here to talk more about these efforts is Dr. Mandy Carr-Johnson, NCBA's Senior Executive Director of Scientific Affairs. Mandy, thanks for coming to the show. And I guess let's begin by talking about research. Why is consumer research so important to the long-term interests of the beef industry?
I think one of the key things is knowing what the consumer wants is critical to overall driving demand. So being able to keep an eye on what today's consumers want in our product, where they want to purchase beef, is really critical to us building demand programs on behalf of the Checkoff.
So what do consumers want to know about beef?
Well, what we see in surveying consumers on a daily basis, what truly drives demand are things that increase their consumption, increase their preference of beef over another protein, and also tells them about the value. So that's things like convenience and versatility of beef, knowing how beef is raised and grown, and knowing that beef is nutritious.
So when they have these questions, I'm curious, who do they want to be answering those questions for them?
Well, when it comes to nutrition, consumers want to hear nutrition advice from a health professional. So we work with doctors, medical doctors, pediatricians, family practitioners, and dietitians to help deliver that information. When it comes to how beef is raised and grown, they want to hear from producers, those farmers and ranchers that are raising cattle, or their veterinarian.
So I'm curious, beef has had some bad press years and years ago about its healthfulness and nutrition. What are consumers saying today about the nutritiousness of beef?
Well, consumers know that beef is high in protein, and that is one of the key things consumers are looking for today, is to increase their protein intake as they try to manage hunger and weight management, but also physical activity. So it's a great opportunity for beef, knowing that consumers know it's high in protein.
That is good news. And one last question. I see a dramatic change in a trend from people eating out in restaurants to people eating at home. What's your research telling you, and what does that mean to us in the beef industry?
So consumers today are looking to eat at home more. About 75% of consumers say they're going to eat at home more than they did last year. And so really opportunities to continue to bring that information on how do you make a convenient and versatile meal that is something that is nutritious for your family at home, and save a little bit on the family budget by not eating out as often.
Yep, it's good words for the beef industry, and thankfully consumers are a lot better at providing, and I should say preparing our product than they've ever been as well. Would you agree?
They are, and we see from consumers that about 90% of them say that they have a positive eating experience, whether it's at home or at our restaurant. So it's a good time for beef.
That is good. Thank you so much for your time, Dr. Johnson.
Thank you.
Now, if you want to stay up to date on NCBA's efforts on things like beef safety, sustainability, product quality, and nutrition, just visit the website beefresearch.org. Still to come, we'll tell you why now is a perfect time to become a member of the nation's largest and oldest association representing cattle and beef producers. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Cattle producers across the country work hard to care for their animals and their land. The USDA's Natural Resources Conservation Service is there to help. Find out how you can work with NRCS to develop a conservation plan for your operation. Find possible funding resources for implementing conservation practices, or get free expert advice on ways to improve your farm or ranch. Visit the website nrcs.usda.gov today.
Join the National Cattlemen's Beef Association. There are big benefits to being a member. You'll get industry news in the National Cattlemen, email updates in the NCBA Beef Bulletin, plus discounts just for NCBA members. Join by calling 866-233-3872 or online at ncba.org.
Hello, friends, and welcome to the NCBA's Cattlemen's Call podcast. Now, the goal of this podcast is to focus on the people in the beef industry. We all have stories to tell. We all have successes and failures, and it's always great to talk about all the hard work that we put in to our operations in our industry. So we're taking the time to talk about what everyone else is talking about for cattlemen and women to share what's on their minds. And make sure and subscribe to the Cattlemen's Call podcast today.
Time now for Weather Watch with meteorologist Matt Makins.
Matt Makins here. I hope the summer has found you doing well. Here's a look at what we're going to be chatting about today on this Weather Watch. What's the status of this La Nina event? We've chatted about it in some National Cattlemen. Your Fall Directions magazine is soon on its way to you, and you'll read a lot more about this winter's outlook there. But with La Nina developing, there is a drought concern across the country. Remember, just a quick refresher, here we are in the States, but we worry about the ocean conditions right in here. What are the temperatures like at the very surface? Are they colder than average or warmer than average? Like all things in weather, we worry about where our sources of energy are going to come from, and this happens to be one. So these black highlighted boxes, that's where we chat about El Nino and La Nina. Right now, within these boxes, starting to see more blue coloration, meaning the ocean is getting colder and we're heading toward a La Nina event. If we look just in those boxes, we were in El Nino early this year, back in January. Remember that? We stayed El Nino until about May, and then it went away. Now we're sitting in neutral. I've also added other lines here to represent other years. What's been most similar to this one? 1980, 83, 92, 95, 98, 03, 05, 7, 10, 16, 19, and 20. All of those are these lines that you see pretty close to this year's. Where do we go from here? Well, this one's kind of trending as more of a weaker event. Sure, some past years have bounced right back to a weak El Nino. Some have stayed neutral, but the vast majority have eventually cooled off to at least some form of La Nina. And that's likely where we're headed this time. We're already seeing that impact. If you look at drought from June to the drought in August, drought has grown quite a bit across the country. And what's the outlook looking like? Well, not a strong El Nino, not a weak El Nino, so we've got to worry about these ones. What would be a neutral pattern? No El Nino, no La Nina, a weak La Nina or a strong La Nina. And in all cases, look at the drought that spreads across the south with moisture across the north. This graphic, many others, available to you in the National Cattlemen, and look for your Fall Directions magazine. I break it down region by region what you can expect with this developing La Nina event. Till the next time, Matt Makins here. Be well.
One of the most important things cattlemen and women can do is join the fight to protect our industry by becoming a member of the National Cattlemen's Beef Association. And here to tell us more about the value and some of the benefits of NCBA membership is Mary B. Hallamay. Mary B., thanks for coming to the show. And let's begin with just that concept. What is the primary value for a beef producer who chooses to become a member of this organization?
Joining NCBA gives cattle producers a say in policy decisions. NCBA has a dedicated staff and office in Washington, D.C. to protect cattle producers' voice there. We also want cattle producers to be able to thrive for the next generation. So we work very hard to make sure that can still happen.
Yeah. You know, I hear some folks say, Kevin, I'm a member of my state organization. Why do I even have to be a member of the national organization? What do you say to folks like that?
Yeah, so NCBA specializes on issues on the federal level for our members, and state cattlemen's associations specialize on state issues and local issues. And so we really ask cattle producers to be a member of both so that their voice can be heard over all government levels.
Yeah. And the other misnomer that I hear often out in the country is, well, NCBA is just for the big producer. What do you tell producers who might not think they have enough cattle to be an NCBA member?
Well, that's not true, first of all. But according to USDA, an average herd size is 50 head. And so we really encourage, whether you have a large herd or small herd, that your voice is important and it matters and you should be a member. And then also, if you're like myself that don't have any cattle, but we're supportive of the industry, we also have a membership for that. So whether your operation is large or small, we want you to be successful.
Absolutely. One last question. I understand there's some unique benefits for folks who choose to become members even right now.
Yeah, so the biggest benefit is to have your voice heard in Washington, D.C. But we also have perks, is what I call them, for companies that you may do business with. And so we really encourage you to go to ncba.org or call our office at 866-233-3872 to learn more about those perks. But those perks really don't matter as much as what we do in Washington, D.C. And so we ask you to become a member so that we can all be successful and have a bigger voice together.
And for my seat in the bleachers, there's never been a more important time to defend the U.S. cattle industry in D.C. than today.
That is right.
Thank you for all that you do.
That is right.
Remember, the National Cattlemen's Beef Association fights for the interest of cattle producers in every state and in every sector of the industry. But your support is needed to continue this important work, so please consider becoming a member. Just call 866-233-3872, as Mary B. suggested, or you can go to the website ncba.org. Still ahead, we'll introduce you to another great cattle producer who's helping direct the work of the Federation of State Beef Councils. Stay with us.
Handle feed, waste, and other materials on your operation with John Deere equipment. Weigh feed on the go with dynamic weighing. And move materials faster without spilling with the Level to Horizon feature on 6R tractors. Move and stack bales easily and clean up brush and debris with improved grapple work on 5 Series tractors. Get into tight spaces with skid steers and wheel loaders. And check calves, fences, and more with John Deere Gators. Ask your John Deere dealer to learn more.
Did you know you can get reimbursed for attending cattle industry educational events? The Rancher Resilience Grant helps cattle producers attend valuable programs such as Cattlemen's College and Stockmanship and Stewardship training sessions. Local, state, and national events qualify for the grant, and successful applicants can receive money back to help cover registration fees and hotel expenses. To apply for the Rancher Resilience Grant, go to ncba.org and click on the Producer tab.
My name is Sue Link. I'm from Elbert County, Colorado. I am the Federation of State Beef Councils. My husband and I run the Link Enterprises outside of Elbert, Colorado. We have a small cow-calf operation. My role on the Federation is I sit on the Health and Nutrition Committee, and I've thoroughly enjoyed this for close to 6 years. I have learned so much about the different research projects concerning children, even from ages of 9 to 14, and their lack of protein in their diet and how that's affecting them. Beef provides the nutrition that children, adolescents, and the elderly desperately need in their diet in order to be healthy, not only just physically, but cognitively as well. The goal that I see in being a part of the Federation is collectively we all come together and we're focused primarily on building demand for beef. The volunteer participation here is truly a grassroots-driven effort. This is where the decisions are made, and people that spend their time and their passion here are really working hard for the best outcome. It shows the success of national-state partnerships. The Colorado Beef Council has truly benefited from the nutrition seminar program. We've used nutrition speakers that have come and talked to our dietary interns. We've had them speak at our nurse practitioners, but more exciting is the program that we have going currently, and that is working with CHASA, which is a high school sports association. We have a renowned speaker coming in doing webinars that will be focused for parents, for students, for coaches, talking specifically about the benefits of beef and the protein needed for these athletes to perform as best as they can. This is truly an exciting time to be a part of the Federation. After 60 years, it's clear that this is something that works and that we need to continue this. The Federation has been very successful in driving demand for beef. I said yes to serving on the Federation because I could see that this program was huge, it was big, that there were so many people involved and there must be something right going on there. We're all a bunch of independent cattlemen, cattlewomen, and we do what we do because we love what we do. I'd love for the message to get out to some of the people in our area or even across the country that don't understand and maybe have some false information about the Federation. I would like them to know that there's opportunity for them here. There's opportunity for them to come, to find out what the real process is, what is really happening. I think they would be pleasantly surprised. I think they'd really understand that the beef checkoff dollar really does make a difference. And the reason why I'm here doing the work with the Federation is to make sure that my granddaughter has a future when she gets older to be a part of the beef industry.
In this episode, we've highlighted the importance of getting involved to promote and protect the cattle industry. There's another important event coming up, CattleCon 25 in San Antonio, Texas, on February 4th through the 6th. You can get details on how to attend at the website convention.ncba.org. Well, that wraps up this edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. Thanks so much for spending time with us. We'll see you again next week right here on RFD TV.